Hello everyone, this is Sheila back. I'm back with another tutorial. This time I'm doing this is going to be a 16-inch cable front cardigan. It'll be for a little boy, this one, but you can make it for a girl if you if anyone that's watching wants. And it's going to be the back and the two fronts are all in one up to the armholes, and I have just got a small bit of cable up there, going to be up the fronts, and the rest is all stocking stitch. I started off with 325mm needles and I cast on 99 stitches, and I did 8 rows in twisted rib. And if you don't know how to do twisted rib, you just knit into the back of every knit stitch on every row. And then I changed to the 4mm needles, what I'm using now. I don't know whether you can see it on there. It doesn't show up very well, the 4mm on these needles. And for to do the to put the cables in, I knit 2 stitches. It's knit over 14 stitches, so I knit 2 stitches, purl 2 stitches, knit 8 stitches, and purl 2 stitches, and then I knit across to the last 14 stitches, and I did the same again. A purl 2, knit 8, purl 2, knit 2. Now I'm on to the row that I'm going to do the cables, and I'm doing the cables on every 6th row, but the first cable I did on the 4th, the 5th row. I knit 4 rows and then I did the cable, and then I did it on every 6th row after that. So I'm onto a row where I'm going to cross over the cables, and I need my cable needler, which I didn't bring in with me, so I'm going to have to go and get it. So that's my cable needle. I'm an old-fashioned cabler. I like the old-fashioned cable needle. I don't like those ones with the little bendy bit in the middle, or some of those ones that go around in a circle like that. Do not like those ones either. This is the one I've had, must be about 60 years old, and I prefer this one. So I'm going to show you, and I will do a close-up. So like I said in the earlier part of the video, I'm going to knit 2 stitches, purl 2 stitches, and then we're going to cross over the cables. And these are, in those 8 stitches, they are actually 2 sets of cables, and they're going to be crossing 4, so that's 2 over 2. So the first 2 stitches I'm going to put on my cable needle and hold at the back of the work, and then I'm going to knit the next 2 stitches, and then knit the 2 stitches off the cable needle. That's the first cable 4. And I'm going to use my cable needle again. Take the next 2 stitches onto the cable needle. Instead of holding it at the back, you're holding it at the front this time. So you're going to cross over and then knit 2, and then knit the 2 from the cable needle. And that's the first cable border done. Then I'm going to purl 2 stitches, and then I'm going to knit to the last 14 stitches, where I'll cross over those cables again. And I will pause the video till I get that far. And I'm now coming up to the cable on the other end of the row. I've got another 4 stitches to knit. And then I'm going to purl 2 stitches. This is the last 14 stitches. There's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So I'm going to pull the next 2 stitches and take my cable needle, and I'm going to take 2 stitches off, hold it at the back of the work, knit the next 2 stitches, knit the stitches off the cable needle, and then take the cable needle again and take the next 2 stitches off, hold that at the front of the work, and knit 2, then knit the 2 stitches off the cable needle, and that's the finish with the cable for that row. And then you're going to purl 2 and knit 2. And that is how you work the cable on the thing. And as you can see, it's not a straightforward cable. You have like where the cable sort of, the 2 bits of the cable here, and when you cross the cable over, they come out of the centre of that part, and it makes it like more of a rounded, just a little bit different to the normal straightforward cable. And for this one, when you're wanting to know how many rows you may have done, you can either put a stitch marker in where you've done that row there, just put a stitch marker into somewhere, and then you'll count 6 rows from there for you. You'll count 5 rows, and then your next one will be your 6th row, and you do the cable. Or just count your cables from inside here, not that very first one, because that's the one where you've crossed it over. Go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You would have 5 before you actually do that row, so you know that the 6th one will be you're crossing it over. And that's how you do that cable stitch. And I will be back when I get a bit more done, and I will show you how to separate for the armholes. Well, I have now knitted up to 5 inches, and I'm going to separate the stitches for the back and the 2 fronts. So I'm going to start with, I have my instructions written down here. So I'm going to knit 23 stitches. Blow that up. 1, 2, 3. So that's 23 stitches knitted on there. Now I'm going to cast off 4 stitches. So I'm going to knit another stitch first. So that's actually 24 I've knitted, but that 1 stitch is part of the cast off. So 2, 1, 2, 3. That's 4. I've cast off 4 stitches for the armhole. Get some wool off here. And now I want 45 stitches for the back. It's 45. I'm checking my notes here. That's 45. So I'm going to knit across 45 stitches, but I already have 1 stitch off the cast off, so I'm going to knit another 44 to make it up to 45. So that's 45 stitches I have now, including the 1 stitch from that was left over from the cast on stitch. And I'm going to knit another stitch and then cast off another 4 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm just going to knit the rest of the stitches, and including that one stitch, that's 23 stitches I'm going to have. So that is all my stitches separated for the back and the two fronts. So we have 23 stitches, cast off 4, 45 stitches, cast off 4, and then we have 23 stitches. And I'm going to work on the first set of stitches for that will be for the left front. So we're going to work across to the armhole. So I've knitted across that row, and I'm going to knit another 2 rows before I start the shaping. So we're now going to start the decreasing. So I'm going to knit 1 stitch, slip 1 stitch, knit 1 stitch, and then pass that slip stitch over, and then knit to the cable. And this is a cable row, so I'll be crossing cables over on this row. So that was 2 cable behind and now 2 in front. Well, it's cable 4 actually, it's 2 over 2. That's purl to the last few stitches, and that is how we're going to do the decreasing. But we're going to do it on every alternate row now, where we're going to knit 1, slip 1, knit 1, pass the slip stitch over, and we'll carry on doing that on alternate rows. So I've carried on with the shaping until I have 13 stitches left, and now I'm going to cast off 4 stitches at the start of this row. So I finished on a right side row, and I'm casting off the stitches on the wrong side of the row. That's 1. 2, 3, 4 stitches. I'm going to knit to the end of that row now. Right. And now I'm going to decrease at the neck edge on the next 3 rows. And decreasing at the armhole edge at the same time. I need to knit two together. Knit one. And I'm going to purl one. Purl two together. One more decrease at the neck edge. So that's 3 decreases at the neck edge, and now I'm just going to decrease at the armhole edge until I have 2 stitches left. And I'm down to 2 stitches, so I'm going to purl those 2 together. And cut off that yarn now. And that's tied it off. So that is the left side done. And I'm going to rejoin the stitches to the 45 stitches for the back. And with that I will be knitting 3 rows and then starting the decrease on the next row and then on every alternate row until I have 17 stitches left. So I will rejoin this yarn here. Leave a little bit of an end to sew the end in. Now I'll pause that until I get to the decreasing row. So we're now onto the decreasing row, and I'm going to knit 1 stitch, slip 1 stitch, knit the next stitch and pass that slip stitch over, and then knit to the end of the row, or to the last 3 stitches. And I'm almost at the end of the row. 1 more stitch to knit, and I'm going to knit 2 stitches together and knit 1. And that is how the shaping is done on the back, and that's going to be done on every other row. So I have decreased until there are 15 stitches left. And I'm going to cut the yarn off and put these stitches onto the stitch holder. So that is the back and the left front. I just need to do the right front now, and then put the neckband on and the bands for the front. Right, I am onto the right side on the cardigan, and I'm going to have to join the wool. Take some wool off here, and I'm going to blow this up a little bit. And I'm going to purl across this row till I get to the cable. Purl 8 stitches. It's 8. Knit the next 2 and purl the next 2. This down, and now the right front, I'll take this back down again. The right front is just a mirror image of the left front. So on the left front you decreased at the start of the row, you knit one and slipped one, knit one and passed the slip stitch over. But on the right side you're going to knit to you knit across to the end of the row, instead of where on that one you are decreasing on the start of the row. This one you're decreasing at the end. So instead of knitting one and slipping one, you're knitting 2 together. So you knit to the last 3 stitches and knit 1 together, but I have 2 more rows to do first. So I will come back when I get those 2 rows done. So I'm onto the row where I'm going to decrease at the row, but I also have to cross the cables on this row as well. I've changed my smaller needles because I'm sick of the noise of the needles clattering on the bench. That's 1, 2, purl 2. So I'm going to take 2 cable stitches on the cable needle, hold it at the back, knit 2, knit the stitches off the cable needle, two cable stitches at the front, knit the next 2, and then the next 2 off the cable needle. Right, I've purled 2 and I'm going to knit to the last 3 stitches. So I'm at the last 3 stitches and I'm going to knit 2 together and knit 1. And that is how I'm going to shape the raglan. Put that needle down and get my shorter ones. They just keep clacking on the bench all the time because of the length of them. I don't need long ones for little small ones like this. So I am going to knit on the right side and keep decreasing at the end, knit 2 together, knit 1 until I reach to do the neck shaping on here, which I will need to have, I'm checking on mine, 13 stitches. So I'm going to decrease on this side to get up to the neck here until I have 13 stitches, and I will come back and show you how to do the neckband. So I have now decreased up until I have 13 stitches left, and I finished on the wrong side row. So I'm going to start and decreasing, and I'm going to cast off, not decreasing, cast off, I think it's 4 stitches, I'm checking. Yes, I have to cast off 4 stitches at the neck edge and then knit 2 together for 3 rows. So I'm going to cast off 4 stitches, That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and knit to the last 3 stitches. Knit 2 together, knit 1, and then I'm going to cast to decrease at the neck edge on the next 3 rows. So I have 3 stitches left, so I'm going to purl 2 together and purl the last stitch. In the next row I'm going to knit 1, going to slip 1 and knit 1 and pass a slip stitch over, knit 1, knit 2 together, then purl to the last 3 stitches, purl 2 together, purl 1, and that's a decreasing finished on the neck, and then we're just going to carry on at the armhole edge till we have 2 stitches left. So I'm going to knit the first 2 stitches together, knit 1, I'm left with 2 stitches, and I'm going to purl those 2 stitches together and then fasten off. So that is the right front finished. So that's all the pieces, the back and the 2 fronts done. I bring it down. All I have to do now is the 2 sleeves, and the 2 sleeves are just straightforward plain knitting. There's no cable or anything up. So we'll bring these forward and fold them in. And that's how those pieces are going to look, and then they'll have the band down the centre and the neck on. Then I will come back when I get to the sleeves. So we are now on to the sleeves, and I have done 1 sleeve and I've set it into the raglan, and I'm going to do the 2nd sleeve now, so I'm going to show you how to do that. I've already knitted the rib for it. I get some wool pulled off now. And I've used 3.25mm needles, and I cast on 29 stitches, and then I knit 8 rows and knit 1, purl 1 twisted rib. And now I'm going to do the change to 4mm needle. I'm using my smaller needle here. Well, you can see it's not a very bright day today. It's a 4mm. I'm using this shorter needle because of the needles clatter on this bench when I use a long one. So I am going to knit 2 rows, just plain stocking stitch. As you can see from the other one, there's no cables or anything up the middle. Now I'll blow that up so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to knit across this row and then do a purl row. I'll be back when I've done that. So I've knit the 2 rows and stocking stitch, and now, and if anyone doesn't know what stocking stitch is, which I'm sure you do, it's 1 row knit and 1 row purl. I'm going to increase on the next stitch. So I'm going to knit the first stitch and pick up that little bar between the 2 stitches there, put it onto the needle, onto the left hand needle, and then I'm going to knit into the back of it. And then knit across to the last stitch. And now coming up to my last stitch, 2 more stitches to knit. And then I'm going to pick that bar up again between the 2 stitches and then knit into the back of it. And knit the last stitch. And that is the first decrease, and I'm going to knit another 5 rows, and then on the 6th row I'm going to decrease again. So I will be decreasing on every 6th row now until I have 39 stitches. Before I show you any more of this, I have to make a little correction of an error I just made. When I was telling you for the sleeves, I said to decrease every 6th row on the sleeves. What I should have said should have been increase. So I thought I'd better clarify that, because there's a lot of new knitters might get a bit confused. So when I was showing you how to shape the sleeves after the rib, I did say at the start to increase, and then when I was telling you a bit more I said decrease, and it should have been increase. So I hope that sorts that a little bit out. The sleeve now measures 5.5 inches, so I'm going to do the stitches for cast off stitches. Blow that up again. So I'm going to cast off 2 stitches. 1, 2, knit across to the end of the row, and I'm now going to cast off 2 stitches on the purl side. That's 1, 2, and then purl across to the end of that row. So that's the 2 cast off stitches at each end, and I'm going to knit another 2 rows now. The 1 row knit and 1 row purl, and then I'll be decreasing on the next row. That's the 2 rows knitted. Now I'm going to decrease the first row on the sleeve. I'm going to knit 1, slip 1, same as the back and the other parts. Pass that slip stitch over and knit to the last 3 stitches. And I now have those 3 stitches left, so I'm going to knit 2 together and knit the last stitch. I'm going to knit another 3 rows after that, and then decrease again on the 4th row, and then on every alternate row after that until I have 7 stitches left, and I will come back then. So I've finished the second sleeve, and I've put it on a safety pin, 7 stitches left, and I have pinned it, and I'm going to sew it and set it into the cardigan. So I'm doing a flat stitch on the rib part, which is holding it flat like that, and just going from one stitch from one side to the other like that. That's how you do flat stitch. It's the way I do the raglings at the same time. And then I'm going to sew up the side, up the sleeve seam, and I'm going to do a back stitch for that. And the back stitch is just going in, going back behind the stitch you've just made, coming out a little way in front of it. So you're going back behind, that's why it's called a back stitch. And just do that up the seam. I need some needles like these, thick needles like these, but with sharper point. It's hard to get through the wool sometime with these. I like the, you know, the thinner needle, but I can't get the wool through the eye in the needle. Get that pin out. I've got one of my hairs, I'm stitching one of my hairs in. One of my hairs, you can't see it there, but it's silver grey, the same as the colour this cardigan is. Somebody was going to have my DNA there till I spotted it. And you just keep on sewing like that until you finish the seam. And I'm up the top of the sleeve seam. I'm just going to fasten it off. Just wrap the wool around the needle about 3 times and that should do it. So that's the sleeve seam done. I'm going to turn it the right way now. God. So that's the seam done for the sleeve. Now I'm going to set the sleeve into the cardigan. Wrong way around, that way around. So we have to find the seam and put it where you have the center of the 4 stitches that you cast off. So I'm putting it there. Put a pin in. I usually like to put the neckband on before I do the sewing up, but it's a bit difficult with this sort of thing. You need a little bit free space up the top for putting the when you have to set in the raglan. So just pin the raglan seam in place, just one side at a time. have two bits of yarn here, so I'm going to have to tie them together and cut one off. I'm going to cut this one off. And you just over sew that end you've cut off, just flat stitch the seam like you did with the cuff. Go from one stitch from one side to the other. It's similar to a mattress stitch when you're stitching this way, but you just do it slightly different way. Where you go from one stitch on one side to the corresponding stitch on the other side. And I've over sewn over that end that I cut off. And don't pull the stitch tight when you're sewing it, or else you'll gather the seam. Just leave it loosely. As you can see, the seam's not gathered on the other side. It's just, you need a little bit stretch in it. If you pull it tight, it gathers the seam, and then it makes the seam shorter than it should be. And so just keep on sewing the seam like that till you get down to the center bit, and then start on the other side for the stitching the sleeve to the back seam. We're now going to pick up the stitches for the neck. I'm going to pick 12 on the right front. That's one. That's one, two, three, four, five, 11, 12. 12 stitches for the right front, and then the stitches from the first sleeve. So that's another 7. That's 7 stitches for the sleeve, and now there's 15 on the back. Two, 3, 14, the last one 15, There's another 7 on the other sleeve. Is 1, 6, 7, and then another 12 down the front, down the left front. I have to find where to start now. And there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 12 stitches on the other front. And I have 53 stitches all together, and now I'm going to knit the first row. Just ordinary knit stitch, so that you get like a garter edge on the right side. I must have split that stitch. I'm having trouble going through it. So I'm just going to knit to the end of this row, so you can see the garter that's going to show on the right side, and that separates the band from the body. Now I'll meet you at the end of that row. Now that's 3 stitches on that row. We'll yarn tight there we started. So there, when you look at the right side, you can see that's where you're going to have like a garter edge along the edge. That's where I always do my bands. I always do 1 knit stitch before I start the rib. And I'm going to do 1 by 1 rib for 4 rows. It's going to be a twisted rib, the same as the bottom and the cuffs. So that's 4 rows in the twisted rib, and then I will be casting off the stitches in the same twisted rib. You how to put the bands on. I've done the band here for the button band. I had finished the neck, you know, I told you I was doing the neck, and I'd finished that, and I picked up 55 stitches for the band, and I'm going to show you how I did that on the other side. This is for the buttonhole side. This is for a little boy, this cardigan. So and you can either, what I normally do is I pick up 3 stitches and miss 1. So I miss, when I'm picking up the stitches all the way down here, I miss every 4th stitch. But this measures 9.5 inches from here up to there. And if you want to be a bit more precise, you could put stitch markers in every 2 inches like this up the thing. So you would have 8 inches up to here and about 1.5 inches for the bottom. And it's picking up 6 stitches to the inch, so between each marker you would pick up 12 stitches. That's for anyone that might find that a bit easier. But like I'm saying, I pick up 3 stitches and miss 1. So I'm going to start here. Now blow that up so you can see better. At least we've got a little bit sunshine at the moment, but we're going to have thunder and lightning and rain all the rest of the day. I hope it doesn't start thundering in the middle of this video. I have to get that wool through there. The first stitch. That's it. So that's 1, 2, 3, miss that one there and go on to the next one, that's 4, so that's 1, 2, 3, miss the next one, go on to the next one there, it's 1, 2, 3, miss the next one, go on to the next one, that's 1, 2, 3, miss the next one, 1, 2, 3, miss that one, go on to the next one, 1, 2, 3, and that is how I'm going to carry on all the way down till I've picked up all 55 stitches. So that's all my 55 stitches I've picked up, and I'm going to knit the first row. So I get that same garter edge like that what I have on the neckband. I do that on all of my patterns. And I'm on to the last few stitches. And that's my garter edge row. And now I'm going to do knit 1, purl 1, rib in twisted rib, the same as the bands. And I'm going to knit 5 rows all together, the same as what I did on the other side, but I'll be putting buttonholes on the third row. So I'm going to knit 2 rows, and then on the third row I will put the buttonholes on, and then I will do the rest of the rows to 5 rows and cast off loosely in rib, but I will show when I come to the buttonholes. I have now knitted 2 rows of rib, and I'm going to put some stitch markers where I'm going to place the buttonholes. That's how I do my buttonholes. And I have my little bingo board pouch that Priscilla from Distinctive Crochet sent to me. There you see she has her name on the label there. And she sent me these along with a knitting bag and one for putting my needles in and a few other things. So I keep my stitch markers in there. It's very handy for that. So I'm going to place them evenly. Put the third one from the bottom there, I think will be about right. And then I know where to place the buttonholes. and I'm putting 5 buttonholes in this. So I'm going to try to work it evenly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to put it every 6th one from each one that I place in. Next one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 into that one. And 2 more. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I always place them on the knit stitch there because it's the best one to see. There's not quite as many for up the top, so we're going to have a little shorter space up there. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. Put it on the 5th one up. So that's where my 5 buttonholes are going to be. As you can see, it's quite easy to see. So I'm just going to start knitting the rib. That's 1, 2, 3, and you knit the 1 stitch where the stitch holder is through. So I knit that stitch and then bring the wool forward, knit 2 together, and I keep the wool quite slack, put my finger on it so it makes a good size buttonhole. So you can see it's quite loose, the stitch, you can lift it up. And I go down to the next one now. And that's the next one, the next stitch where the holder is, the stitch marker is. Going to knit that stitch, wool forward again, knit 2 together. And keep your finger on the wool to stop it tightening. And there you are, there's quite a slack stitch there. And you do that for every stitch marker you come to until you have all your buttonholes done. So that's all the buttonholes done, and I'm now going to knit another 2 rows, and then I'll cast the stitches off on that last row. So that's all 5 rows knitted and all the buttonholes, you can see. So I'm going to cast off this row. And the same twisted rib that I've been knitting in all the time, and cast loosely, don't pull the stitches tight. I'm casting off my last few stitches. And then just thread the end through the loop, and that is the band knitted. And now I just have to weave in these ends, find some buttons, and as this is the button side, there's a long end there. I'll leave that and I'll weave that through to where the button goes there, and I'll use that for to sew the button on there. And the other end, there's a long thread, I'll weave that up to where I put the buttonholes, but the rest of them will have to be woven in. So I'll get my, weave the ones in that I don't need. This one. and just take the stitch through to the other side and weave it down one side of the, and I go back over and go through the stitch. That secures it, and then just take it down through the stitch to the end there like that, and cut that one off. Now place pins in the corresponding places on the other band with the buttonholes. So you just find your buttonhole, that's where the buttonhole is there. So you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, put it into the next space because you had your stitch markers on every 6 of these, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the next space there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the next space. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because there's only 5 on the top one in that space. So you don't need to worry about where you're putting the buttons are in this corresponding places to the buttonholes. And I have buttons, and I hunted my button box. This is a very pale grey, and I did not have any grey buttons at all. So I'm putting white ones on. They are sort of, the colour of the wool is sort of bouncing off them, so you can't notice that they're actually white. So I'm going to stitch those buttons on now, and I need a smaller needle with smaller eye. And I will stitch the first one because there's only one button here, one button with this amount of wool. I have a lot of trouble getting the wool through the eyes on these thinner needles. Oh, it's come through. So I have to work it through to get it along the line of that stitch where that pin is. Take the pin out. And bring it through. And then tie it up on the other side. This one. And then I'll do that with the one on the bottom. Probably get a couple of buttons out of this one. This one's for a little boy, and I will be putting this on my eBay shop probably in the next couple of days before midnight on Monday, because I have special offer on eBay where they give me 80% off their selling fees, but I have up till midnight on Monday to do that. So I have 1 or 2 other things to sort out too that might be putting on there. But for anyone that wants the tutorial, this is it. So give a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more. And I'll catch you at another time. So bye for now.